Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. We've got an interesting article here, so let's go over to it. Let's read it together, and then we'll have a few comments afterwards. So, as you can see here, the title is called UK Fraud Review Calls for Judge Training on Crypto Laundering AI Scam. So, a government-backed review says magistrates and judges aren't ready for a coming surge in crypto money laundering and AI-enabled fraud cases. So we're going to read the in brief and then we'll get to the article. So in brief it says, a UK government commissioned review recommends the Judicial College prepare all judges, including magistrates, for a likely rise in cases involving AI-enabled fraud and money laundering using cryptocurrencies. The report warns that fraud may soon make up half of all crime in England and Wales and cites estimates that more than half of investment scams now involve crypto assets. It highlights the case of a convicted fraudster, Tian Min, which produced the UK's largest ever crypto seizure of more than 61,000 Bitcoin, to show the complexity now reaching the courts. All right, so the article begins. A major UK review of fraud has recommended that judges and magistrates be trained to handle a coming wave of cases involving cryptocurrency, money laundering, and fraud powered by artificial intelligence. The recommendation lands in Fraud in the Digital Age, the second report from Independent Review of Disclosure and Fraud Offences, chaired by barrister Jonathan Fisher, KC, and published Tuesday by the Home Office. It urges the government to invite the Judicial College, which trains the judiciary in England and Wales, to review how best to prepare all judges, including magistrates, for the likely increase in AI-enabled fraud and the laundering of money assets using cryptocurrencies. The review's concern lies with the courts. The Fraud Act 2006 is broadly sound and well placed to address AI-enabled fraud, it says. The difficulty is that the courts hearing these cases increasingly aren't equipped for them. Tools once reserved for sophisticated criminals are now widely accessible, the report says, meaning magistrates and non-specialist Crown Court centers will face cases of a nature and scale they have not previously encountered, leveraging AI, cross-border fund transfers, and cryptocurrency training for the toughest trials already exists through the Judicial College's long and complex trials course, but it is optional, and the review notes often overshadowed by other courses. Complex fraud work is concentrated among a cadre of judges in major cities, leaving regional crown courts short on both experience and infrastructure. The report recommends asking the college to weigh whether that course should be updated or replaced with a bespoke module on fraud and related offenses, and whether such training should be mandatory for any judge likely to preside over complex fraud. Fisher further noted that in light of the volume of fraud cases, it would be valuable for the wider judiciary to have a greater awareness of how to manage cases involving AI-enabled fraud and cryptocurrency-based money laundering. So half of all crime. Fraud may soon account for half of all crime in England and Wales, the report says, with an estimated 4.1 million offenses in the year to June 2025, impacting 1 in 14 adults and 1 in 4 businesses. Wow. Both AI and crypto feature heavily, with more than half of investment scams now involving crypto assets, according to the Financial Ombudsman Service, while an Ada Lovelace Institute survey found that 58% of respondents had encountered AI-enabled financial fraud. Yet enforcement barely keeps pace. Only 30% of fraud outcomes end in a charge or summons. The review found about 1 in every 54 reports. The report highlights the recent prosecution of Tian Min, who ran a Ponzi scheme in China that defrauded more than 128,000 victims of around £5 billion, then laundered the proceeds into Bitcoin, producing the largest confirmed Bitcoin seizure in UK history, more than 61,000 Bitcoin. She was sentenced in November to 11 years and 8 months at Southwark Crown Court under the Proceeds of Crime Act 2002. That haul has yet to be untangled. The fate of the seized Bitcoin remains locked in a tug-of-war between defrauded victims, the UK government, and China, with Treasury officials having floated keeping some of it to shore up public finances. So that's the end of the article. Several very interesting things, and this is why we are covering this article, is because it is often said that the criminals are always trying to stay one step ahead of the law. And this is just another example, is that you have a lot of judges and people in the judiciary that, as this article explains, are about to see this tidal wave of crime with these new tools. And maybe the judges themselves have not really seen the cases as of yet, or barely begun to see these types of cases, and their vocabulary and their familiarity with the technology in general is quite limited. So therefore, the governments that are the part of the government that is responsible for training judges and keeping judges on the bench and facilitating judges and basically serving in the judiciary, they need to train everybody up on these new topics. Okay, so they're going to be hosting seminars, they're going to be hosting standalone classes and those sorts of things, as this article details. And then the other interesting fact that we've noted in this article, of course, is the half of all crimes. So it seems that there was well over 4 million offenses in the last year, according to their most recent measurements that they've reported on, and yet almost 60% is now AI-enabled financial fraud. So AI is really going to be doing a lot now. But on the other side of the, sort of at the end of that, because you have, of course, the breaking of the law, or the supposed breaking of the law, and then you have the actual challenge and the going to trial, or going to be summons and those sort of things, or you see here charges or summons. So therefore, it says only 13% of fraud outcomes end in these sort of guilty verdicts, if you will. Now, the other interesting thing we learned here is that we didn't technically make a video on the legislation in China, but this is, of course, a very interesting and kind of past the test of time. This transcends across maybe thousands of years, is that you have different governments fighting over assets, and of course now you have technically the UK government and China fighting over 61,000 Bitcoin, and of course you have the defrauded victims themselves that simply would like to be repaid, maybe adjust for inflation. So £5 billion, not sure if that would be 61,000 Bitcoin. So that means that the people were in receipt of this Miss Qian Jimin. So Miss Qian Jimin, she was the one, as it says right here, defrauded more than 128,000 victims. So if we were to check real quickly, what would be 5 billion British pounds? Would be how much Bitcoin? So as of today, you would need, right, so you would need, let's see, 239,000 British pounds to get 5 Bitcoin. So if you wanted to have yeah, if you wanted to get to 5 billion pounds in Bitcoin, then you're going to have to get, let's see here. Okay, you're going to need 104,971 Bitcoin. So here you go. That's a problem. So the people were giving 5 billion, but today that is technically not 61,000. 5 billion British pounds is going to get you not 61,000, it's going to get you 104,000, almost 105,000 Bitcoin. So then the question is, the price of Bitcoin has technically gone down. But the £5 billion should get you really nearly double this amount of Bitcoin at current market prices. So it seems that in this example, whether the person got the money earlier or later, it seems in this case that the people were in receipt of this person, Miss Chen Jimin. She got £5 billion over the last few years. But at that point in time, that £5 billion was transferred over to 61,000 Bitcoin. But now today, that £5 billion would be the equivalent of nearly double that. So that means that this person transferred the Bitcoin at essentially a lower price. But even with the price of Bitcoin going down, and Bitcoin is basically 33% lower than it was, in the last 6 months on average, and it's really almost half of its current price, because Bitcoin is hovering actually around 63,000 now, the price for one Bitcoin. But that means that if the price were to again get back to 120,000, then this individual got converted that $5 billion at quite a low price for the price of Bitcoin, because they got 61,000 Bitcoin, and today you can actually get 104,000 Bitcoin for that British pound. So that's what we learned from this article. Whether these people are buying low or selling high, but the key here is it's a tug of war, and you have multiple governments fighting over Bitcoin, including a government in China which doesn't technically have the same legislation and recognition for digital assets, specifically, central bank digital currencies and those things. So that legislation is a little bit, and Bitcoin itself is also maybe not recognized as a security as it is, or a commodity at least, like many other countries. So once again, we are cryptodeposit.org. You can email us at info@cryptodeposit.org if you wanted to be onboarded quickly. Just remember, you can deposit fiat, deposit cash. You can use a card. You can get USDC and USDT right now on the platform at any moment, and then you can deposit your USDC and your USDT, and you can get as little as 7 days all the way up to 5 years and secure your yield curve. Of course, the yield curve is going to be adjusted over time depending on how long you want to engage. And of course, your bills will be viewable. Of course, when you connect your wallet, you can connect MetaMask as I often do, or many other types of wallets. You can use our partner platform Crypty as well if you so wish. And then everything will be self-custody. It'll be in your wallet, but of course it will also be viewable in crypto deposit order once you scan and connect your wallet. Your borrowing and lending, you can also take your tokens from your wallet and use as collateral to borrow stablecoins. OTC for some of the larger clients who are doing larger ticket deals. And the list goes on and on of wonderful things that are on the platform. So you got statement history, messages, XMTP secure messaging. Activity history will be viewable here once you've connected your wallet, and then exchange and swap. So a lot to discover. White paper at the bottom. There's a YouTube video. There's onboarding tutorials on the YouTube channel. Otherwise, you can just email us at info@cryptodeposit.org, and somebody from the team will be ready to assist you. So yeah, this is an interesting article. A little bit of confusion on when this lady who's now incarcerated for over 11 years in the UK, if she is bought low or sold high or those sort of things, but the price of Bitcoin is always changing. So we'll see how that shakes out over there in the UK, if any of that Bitcoin goes back to the because if we were to go back to this article here, if any of that 5 billion, right, 5 billion pounds, 128,000 victims have been defrauded, but that is now in Bitcoin, right? But 5 billion should be able to get you double the amount of Bitcoin technically at current market prices. So the UK government might want to hold on and get an even higher rate of return. Let's see. They might want to strike a deal with China. They might want to strike a deal with the victims. We've seen similar cases actually with FTX and other sort of bankruptcies or similar cases. So interesting to see how that will play out. But nonetheless, I want to thank everybody for your time and attention on today's video. I certainly enjoyed and learned a lot. Hopefully you guys did too. And wishing you all a great day, wishing you all a great evening, great afternoon, and we'll see you again soon on some other videos that we cover here, covering central bank digital currencies, covering Bitcoin, digital assets, stablecoins in particular, and of course the ongoing legislation and regulation in various countries as we continue to cover some exciting recent news stories around the world. Wishing you all a great day. Have you a good day, everybody, and see you on another video very soon.